Okay, day 174, this is going to be version 3. A couple of interesting things. I mentioned earlier today about the Awan brothers down here and some of the locations of the El Salvador consulate and the close location of this murderer for hire guy, Mahmoud. Okay, so just remember that name, Mahmoud, when we go back up here to Falls Church near the car dealership and near the mosque in Falls Church. Then I also mentioned this A1 limo, Awan Brothers A1 limo right here in Baltimore, and I started moving up to New York following this MS-13 kind of Pakistani ISI MS-13 corridor. And so I ran into these guys, Awan A1 limo, two different limousine dealers, and then all these retail pain clinics kind of surrounding Baltimore. I haven't done that same analysis for Philadelphia and DC yet, but that's coming. What looks like is the base of operations gets put in, like the CIA car dealership here in Washington. I think the same thing is going to be the car dealership in near the mosque in Richmond. I think you're going to have the same thing. This is very close to the mosque here in Baltimore. I think you're going to have the same pattern where the mosque is very close in Philadelphia to the car dealership, which is the base of operations. The reason why a car dealership's good is because there's a lot of money coming back and forth in and out of a car dealer's account every month, so it doesn't raise suspicion when large amounts of money are being transferred. So a car dealership is probably a very good one, as well as a home mortgage company as well, because large amounts going back and forth. Same idea. Of course, the Awans have 25 of those or so in the Falls Church area down here, as we saw before. So we'll get there. But what I wanted to focus in on right now was the people who tend to end up dealing with the car dealership are not car dealers at all. They're more these pain clinics. Now this, I'm not saying there's any connection here between the Muhammad Awan and this Scarborough, Ontario pain clinic, but there you have basically a pharmacist working in 2 or 3 or 4 different pharmacies. Now what's happened in the past with the VA is these pharmacists will take synthetic drugs that are counterfeit from Pakistan, made in just north of Punjab, and they'll exchange, they'll swap in the counterfeit drugs and they'll take out the good drugs, and they'll sell the good drugs on the street market. So that is kind of an upgraded version of the old, rat line, which was the street market. And this allows you to, you only need one person at the corporate level who's buying across a whole hospital system, or across a whole nursing home system, or across a whole government health system like the VA, to do a massive amount of business. So in this case, this Maple Drug Mart, this Muhammad Awan works at 3 different universities, 3 different pharmacies, trained at the University of Punjab in Pakistan, etc. Came through in about 1993 when Hillary's wave of new pharmacists came into the United States. So you can also see Maple Drug Mart here is a methadone clinic. So they have a methadone clinic, and you're going to see the same sort of pattern here. They have telemedicine, which allows a centralization to be able to do referrals to a central point. So, and then they also have limo services that are authorized to deliver drugs. So that is the perfect environment for the Long Island serial killer type situation, because you deliver drugs by day, but then at night you can deliver drugs to kind of partiers, in your limo. So if you have 8 or 10 people in your limo, now you can sell them illicit drugs. Now you can provide that same limo. It could be used with children, could be used with prostitutes and so forth, or entertainment, whatever. And then once you target those individuals, and if you do film them, then they become targets for revenge groups. So it's really kind of a closed loop here. If you really were targeting, let's say, veterans' families, U.S. veterans' families. So I'll move on here to one of the partners in the CIA car dealership that we were talking about in Falls Church on Washington Street was Nasir Khattak, Khattak. He's a chief executive officer of this company called Microtron. Microtron specializes in recharging technology and so forth for recharging motorcycle bikes and different so forth. But they're also in this solar initiative, Solar Pakistan 2017. I'm looking for this Nasir Khatak to be a recipient of USAID, some kind of USAID coming from Hillary. I think you're going to find that. There's going to be another person that works with him closely in a mortgage company again. Remember I said mortgage companies are targeted because large amounts of money can move around. And that's that Zaid Nassan. Zaid Nassan seems to be the kind of the accountant. This is the person who's setting up all these companies. I don't believe the Awan set up the companies. I think this Nasir Zaid is the person doing that. I don't have her or him pictured. But I do know that Zaid, Z-A-I-D, Nassan, is the one who set up the meeting at the White House on this day 2 years ago, April 15th. That's going to be important. Remember that date, two years ago, April 15th. Now, we're going to go in and look at the actual documents from the lawsuit. When that lawsuit was filed, that previous person I talked about, Khatak, was one of the people that commented in the lawsuit. You remember Dr. Attar, the one who did the, the organ harvesting and all the stuff with Hezbollah. He was another person that said they lost money. And remember that they got also $1 million in debt in that lawsuit, okay, in that bankruptcy lawsuit. But an interesting person named in the Falls Church area, very close to the car dealership. As a matter of fact, I think it's exactly the same address as the car dealership. 254 North Washington is going to be the Pakistan American Association at the CIA car dealership, okay? And the person who runs that dealership is going to be Khalid Mahmood, okay? So now you're also going to notice, for those folks who have noticed Zaid Nassan is going to be on Leesburg Road right by DSIA near Falls Church. So for all those folks who doubted the fact that that military family bought that house through the military website, militaryrealestate.com, there's the actual address of the Lorton Hawkshead home. That's exactly where the Marine told me he had marketed this through. That was through military by owner. Okay, so I think we're seeing a lot of, now you remember that date, April 15th, 2 years ago. Well, in March 2 years ago was when the Pakistani national murder occurred with the two MS-13 people. The meeting, and here's Masood here again, and here's the two MS-13. The meeting that Masood had, or that Nassan had, the other partner in the CIA car dealership, had at the White House for a visa, was 1 month later. I am putting forward today that he was in Falls Church on April 15th. There was a meeting at the mosque. He stayed at a safe house for the period of 1 month until that meeting could be arranged at the White House. And then I believe Masood was spirited out of the country. Why do I say that? Because I found his Facebook in Pakistan, and I believe it's the same person. That's all for today.